Hey guys, welcome to scenario 2, budgets up to $1,000 per month. Pretty self-explanatory, no need for me to explain anymore. I've been through a lot of the campaign types already in scenario 1, so if you miss anything or if I brush over anything in this scenario, go back to scenario 1 and I probably said it already. I'm trying to keep these quick. I could talk for hours about these, but I want this to be kind of quite quick and action orientated, so I'm trying to not take up too much of your time and obviously my own time as well. So if you watch scenario 1, you'll know it was primarily brand and PMAX on their own or a version of it split out into individual campaigns. With this, we kind of want to introduce the standard shopping element as well. And here it's really about not over remarketing and getting spend or ensuring we get enough spend to colder in-market audiences. So getting enough spend to the consideration line over the conversion line. A lot of the time when you are a smaller brand, it's impossible to over remarket because no one knows who you are and no one cares about you. But as you get a little bit bigger, as you spend a little bit more, you get a bit more organic traffic or your socials blow up or whatever it may be, you'll see a lot of people coming to you already. And it's too easy to kind of just put yourself in the way of those people before they transact on your website. So it's kind of stealing the attribution for a sale that was already going to happen. And we want to mitigate that where possible. In order to do that, we need to focus our lines that are prone to over attribution, performance max, and obviously brand search. And we want to ensure that we're getting enough cold traffic in the top of the funnel and doing a job to see the brand lines growing, to see our CAC growing and our MER growing and all of that kind of stuff. Or to take a more simple approach to see our overall revenue and business growing. If that is not growing, then we're doing something wrong. And it's probably just paying for conversions that we were already going to get. And you can't avoid it altogether. So by structuring your account in the way we're going to go through in a minute, it will hopefully mitigate that as much as possible. So brand search and PMAX, we've already talked about them, and the strategy remains exactly the same for this scenario as well. Brand search picking up any people navigating, we just want to make sure we get that sale, also helps with conversion data, that kind of stuff across the account. And PMAX, we really want to get it into dynamic remarketing mode and allowing it to spend on cold lines once it's done enough dynamic remarketing there. So standard shopping is the new one here. And in this scenario, we want to use our shopping campaign to prioritize specific products. Our best selling or our highest margin products should have their own manual campaign to control spend. The automated nature of PMAX means it will spend wherever it wants. And you can't really tell it, hey, look, this product, we need to sell more of these, or there's no point putting spend across these products because they don't actually make us any money. We want to push product X and Y instead more. You can't really go into PMAX and say, spend money over there. However, if you were to implement a standard shopping campaign with a manual CPC, you can influence where PMAX spends. So if we have best-selling product A and PMAX is insistent on spending all of its money across worst-selling product Z or Z, and we want to guide PMAX to spend more money on product A, our best-selling, we'll then put it together a standard shopping campaign running product A or the products related to product A with a manual high bid standard shopping campaign. That way we're going to drive a bunch of traffic to product A's page. Then PMAX is going to look at that and say, hey, these guys have already been to site for product A and 50% of them want to buy it. So let me dynamically remarket them in the feed or using display and get them back to site and steal that conversion. That's essentially what's going to happen. But it means PMAX is now spending on those products that you want it to spend on rather than on wherever it sees fit. I don't know if you've ever noticed before, if you're spending a decent amount on PMAX and some months it will just randomly start spending somewhere else. I got one campaign at the moment running. Performance Max has been doing really, really well all year since January. Suddenly, we've come into September, 25, 26 days into the month. We are about 40% down on revenue from the last month. and I can just see that Performance Max is just spending loads of money across YouTube for some reason. So it's that inability to tell it what to do and to keep it doing the right thing. Sometimes it just goes off piste, and we need a way of reining it back in and focusing the spend again, and focusing the campaign. So in terms of campaign structure, again, it's very, very straightforward. We've got brand search, PMAX, and then your shopping. And again, your shopping is split by product. So, or it could just be the one product type, product A, the one we want to push spend on. It's entirely up to you. But like I said, the important thing here is the addition of the standard shopping, and that's to guide our PMAX campaign, making it easier to scale in the long run. With this, we want to look at feed optimization as well, try and get as many clicks as possible, and even bid optimizations as well. In terms of Performance Max and brand search, we've kind of already touched on them in scenario 1, so there's no new news there to talk about. Funds need to be allocated appropriately. In this scenario, you can really see the shift here much more than you can in scenario 1. Here, we're recommending 5% brand search, but I would just try to ensure that you're capturing all of your brand search if you can. If it is crazy amount of money, then maybe dial back on it a little bit, or look at ways of cutting back on spend there. But we want to go 50% of our budget on standard shopping. So that is a huge amount. That's 50% that are going to go to a cold audience, or an audience in that consideration phase, should I caveat again. And here we want to be using the manual CPC, and we want to bid high, because Performance Max is always going to spend more than, or bid higher than, your standard shopping by default. If you were to look at your standard shopping CPCs, they're usually much lower than your PMAX product feed CPCs. And that's because PMAX is bidding more because it thinks that person is going to convert. Therefore, it's willing to pay more to get the conversion. However, if you're running a manual campaign, none of that's taken into account. It's just your bid is your bid. So you're going to get priced out a lot by PMAX, and a lot of people will find that their standard shopping will just not spend, because the PMAX feed will be taking all of that spend away from you. So you need to bid manually, and you need to bid high. So sometimes I like to just go in and just put $5 CPC. And I know that sounds crazy high. Doesn't mean you're going to pay that. It just means you're going to get spend immediately out the door. I mean, if your CPC is already high, go higher again. But the key factor here is we want to get spend going as soon as possible. And we can always bring that down a bit if we're seeing crazy high CPCs. But if we're seeing crazy high CPCs, then maybe there's a problem with some of our competitors or a specific product in the feed. Maybe we want to rethink that. But for now, keep it simple. Just go in high, your priority products and manual CPC, and bid super high and get as much traffic to the site as possible, and let that PMAX campaign do the remarketing and take all the attribution away from standard shopping. Now, you would hope standard shopping does get some conversions, but PMAX might end up stealing quite a lot of them. So just bear that in mind. Don't be too freaked out if you're not getting the kind of ROAS you're expecting from standard shopping. Go back to your whole account. Is the Google Ads account as a whole profitable? If yes, great. And more importantly, is the business itself growing? Have we had more sales this month? Can we attribute that to Google Ads? Yes or no? Take it back to the basics. So again here, as with the previous scenario as well, a lot of this is going to be feed-based optimization. So it's super important that you stay on top of that. And there's always an alternative. And the alternative we're looking at here is adding in a little bit of YouTube to the mix. Now, YouTube doesn't get the praise it deserves, partly because the attribution for it is so poor. And you end up with a lot of YouTube campaigns running that don't actually appear to produce any conversions. However, when you turn them off, you suddenly see your MER and CAC increasing, and the overall ROAS of the account kind of coming down as well. So this is one to think about if you're in the, you've got a little bit more budget, if you're in the top end around the 5K a month mark, definitely something I would consider, because this is all about remarketing and integrating the product feed into YouTube. So utilizing YouTube remarketing campaigns to remind our users of our brand and the products they've been looking at. Video also gives us the ability to express our brand values and distinguish ourselves from our competitors. So don't forget the value of video. The message you can convey in a video is so much more than in a static display ad, or even a shopping feed on Google, or any of those campaign types. Video allows you to convey a brand message and even your brand values and tone so much more. So here we're starting off with, there should be an arrow pointing to the conversion part of the funnel there, because this is YouTube remarketing only. Cold YouTube is a question for another day, another set of budget scenarios. But for this kind of budget level, definitely YouTube remarketing with the feed included. And that's another thing people forget a lot. You can add your feed to the YouTube campaigns. So you're getting super cheap cost per views with your products listed underneath, even the products that they've been looking at listed underneath while they're browsing or looking at alternatives or just watching YouTube, enjoying themselves. And again, like we touched on already, standard shopping. In this scenario, we want to use our standard shopping campaign to prioritize specific products, the same as the alternative before. So YouTube is a cost-effective way to re-engage existing customers and users who have visited the site but not purchased yet. So from an account structuring point of view, again, it looks like this. Exactly the same as the alternative before this. However, YouTube line, we want to make sure we're running remarketing only. You can split that by product type remarketing. If you've got the volume, probably don't. But a common one is a 30-day remarketing list, 60-day remarketing list, 90-day remarketing list, up to around about 120-day remarketing list if you want, all split by different ad groups. But it all has to be remarketing lists, and you have to add your feed in there. If you want to know how to add the feed to your YouTube campaign, obviously go back to level 2. Video for action campaign is what it's called. Go and check that out. That will show you how to do that. And in terms of budget, we've got pretty much a similar split here, with the focus being on standard shopping and a small amount of budget being on YouTube. That could be 5% to start with, actually, up to kind of 15% is where I'd go on that kind of top end. Any more than that, you are not going to see enough return or direct results probably from that campaign itself to justify it. And also, as we sort of mentioned, the theme of this scenario is to ensure that we're not over remarketing people. A lot of budget gets wasted on over remarketing. So keep it simple. Manual for brand search, manual for standard shopping, smart bidding for PMAX, whichever one works best for you, and smart bidding for your YouTube for action campaign as well. And that wraps up scenario 2. Again, pretty straightforward. Easy to go ahead and implement these pretty quickly. Just ensure for the YouTube campaigns, you've got a bunch of video assets. Remember, if your remarketing audiences are small, you'll end up racking up quite a frequency across that audience, and they will get bored of the same video over and over again. So try and get 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, the more, the better. YouTube will optimize and only show the best performing video anyway. So get a lot of video content in there if you can. If you can't afford to get good video content now, then perhaps you can just use the first version of this campaign type and ignore the YouTube remarketing for now. So that wraps it up. I'll see you for scenario 3.